Hi there. A question has come up in one of the Facebook groups that I belong to. One of the members was working on this piece called Ballade Pour Adeline that many of you may recognize. And the question was, how am I going to get my fingers to go fast enough for this piece? Because not only does it have a lot of 16th notes, it has 32nd notes as well. So I took a look at the piece. Before this, I hadn't played it. It's in a book that I have, and I might have touched it briefly. So I'm coming from a position of not only would I recommend this is how people might learn those fast parts, but if I was going to do it myself, this is what I would do as well. So let's take a little peek. The piano, do you have a good view there? Okay, I'm going to assume that we're not talking about the 16th note passages, that we're looking at the 32nd notes. So I'm going to start with measure 12 here. And we've got obviously I practiced this a tiny bit before I did the video. How you would approach this is that you could read through it very slow. And that's not a bad place to start, just figuring out where you're going to put your fingers and which notes happen in which order. And then if there's any question of which finger you're going to use, I would definitely write those in the book, because you're going to be doing repetitions and lots of drills, and you're trying to build muscle memory, and if you keep switching which fingers, that kind of defeats the purpose. It'll just confuse your hands. So let's look at that third beat where you've got... Now, many people might not be able to play that super fast right off, but if you just took two of the notes, I'm going to take the octave here. A lot of times if we just have two notes, we can play it pretty fast. So how fast can I play those two notes? And you'll notice one of the things I'm using is I'm dropping my arm, using my arm weight and a little bit of rotation. I know it's a little bit hard to see with my sleeves and everything. So that I'm not sitting down low and trying to make my wrist and my fingers do all the work of this octave, because that puts a lot of pressure and it will tense us up and you won't have as much freedom of movement. And with fast notes, we definitely need freedom. So we've got... Now I could do that pretty fast. What about adding the next note? And if I can't quite do that, if I get hung up between these notes, take just these two. And then maybe I'll add in the left-hand note. Now, obviously this is out of context. I don't have the beat exactly right in terms of the whole piece, but I'm building the movement and the muscle memory. So now we've got that left hand note, and maybe I won't try to put all that in at once. Let's try taking out this left hand pinky note. Now I've got a pulse. It's feeling more like the original music would feel, but I still haven't added the left pinky note in. So for the first time through, I'm just going to stop it when I get here, because circling back around oftentimes hangs us up. So now I'm going to add just the pinky note, which I did by accident a second ago. The general idea here is adding back in just enough that you can still do it at the speed that you're aiming for. If you can't quite do it, that means you need to back up. And you don't always have to start at the beginning. You could start, let's say I'm going to start at the C note. That's the smallest amount. So I'm starting in the middle of beat 3. It's not beautiful to listen to, but it is building muscle memory. It's great drills. So that is how I would suggest doing that. And if you drop down to measure 15, the nice thing about these is these are arpeggios that you may have already played. And if you haven't, this is a great time to practice arpeggios. And again, people oftentimes, if you can get this fast, a lot of times you'll get hung up coming back down. So you can practice coming down. You can practice backing up one more note. So we've got... So I'm capturing this motion of my arm that I want when I'm doing it fast. If you'll notice when we slow down and do it slow, the actual motion and how I'm using my muscles is different slow than it is fast. So we want to try to capture that motion. And so I'm taking little chunks. I'm not always starting at the beginning of the beat, and especially if you're slowing down in between your beats or half beats, you want to try to connect those going across. So those are some ideas, lots of fast repetitions, connect little sections, and slowly add extra notes, but try to keep it at a higher speed, in addition to also practicing it slow, perhaps when you first start out, just to make sure that you're getting the notes correct, because we do not want to practice incorrect notes over and over again. Those are some ideas. That's how I would approach this piece. I hope you have fun with it.